Once you have your parameters in, there are a few ways you can go about drawing the cue ball. You can just try to eyeball it, but most people, including me, can't draw a perfect circle, as you can see. That may look right at a glance, but I assure you it's not. I'm going to use a compass to make a circle, and you'll be able to see how wrong it is by comparison. Don't worry, I know most of you don't have a compass laying around the house. So, afterwards, I'll show you how to quickly create a makeshift compass at home. If you do have a compass, just set it to half the circle's radius, which should be 2.5 inches, and find the center of the box you just defined. Done. Once you have your circle drawn, you can erase the parameter lines you drew, but be sure to leave the one you made for the shadow. For those of you who don't have a compass and don't possess the superhuman skill of being able to draw a perfect circle, here's a quick, easy way to make a do-it-yourself compass with items you already have for this class. You'll need a ruler, 2 medium-weight lead pencils, and a roll of tape. Begin by measuring the diameter of the circle, which is 5 inches. To set the compass, you'll need the radius, which is half of the diameter, so divide that by 2. So it should be approximately 2.5 inches. Next, line your pencils up so that one pencil is pointing at 0 and the other pencil is pointing at the 2.5 inch mark on your ruler. Then, using a piece of artist tape, tape the top of the pencils together. I'm sure you all see where I'm going with this by now. Finally, simply place one of the pencils at the center of the parameter box you drew and spin. I admit it's a bit clumsy, but it will get the job done. The line will come out light because you can't apply too much pressure, so be sure to draw over it when you're finished. And one last option for those of you who are still having a hard time. I created the cue ball in the photo reference to be the exact same size as a CD or DVD. So, as an alternative to freehand and using a compass, you can simply trace around any compact disc to achieve a perfectly sized circle for this exercise. Almost there. Find the spot where the drop shadow meets the right side of the cue ball and mark it on your ruler. Then bring it over to your drawing and place a dot to give yourself an indication for later. I'm not even taking a measurement, I'm just lining my ruler up with the bottom of the page and making a mark on my ruler. And we already established where the shadow ends. I'm sure some of you are capable of drawing this ball and shadow without using this system. Well, you may have gotten close, but the reason I'm using the cue ball as an example to teach it to you is because we're going to use this system on much more complex images in the upcoming lessons. So I want you to have a basic understanding of the formula before you attempt to use it to draw hands or a portrait, for example. As you can see, I just marked where the shadow begins as well. Now that you have the parameters of the drop shadow defined, connect the dots and outline the shape just like you did with the cue ball. I have a very systematic approach to drawing. Once you learn it, you'll be able to draw anything you want. I'm going to break my process down into parts and explain why I do each step as we progress. Step 1, and my first rule to drawing, is always draw the outline first. So do your best to draw the outline of the shadow. It's okay if it looks wrong. The reason I draw an outline first is so you have an opportunity to see if it looks right before you move on to the next stage of the drawing. Just put a line down. Even if it's a little off, you can use your mistake to help you find the right shape. Here's what I mean. Once you have a line drawn, you can compare it to your photo reference and adjust it until it looks right. You just need a starting point. This is what I was talking about earlier, when I explained that I'm going to leave all of my mistakes in the edit of this course. It's a sketch. You aren't meant to get every line right every time. 2 of the most important lessons you'll learn in this course is to identify a mistake early and how to fix it. So step 1 is to draw the outline. The second step in the process is to outline the information in the interior of the object. Let me explain. I don't want you to do any shading yet. Just lightly outline where all the shadows and highlights will go, like a map. So let's start working on the interior shapes. Now that you have the outline drawn, and thanks to your measurements, you know everything is in the right place. Next, you can make educated judgments to help you find where each shape should go. For example, you know the shadow's here, so this reflection should start here. And it ends right here next to where the drop shadow starts. It's much easier to judge smaller distances than larger distances, so locating these points should be easy for you. Now that you know where this line starts and ends, all you have to do is judge the curve, and you could do that by relating it to the distance from the bottom of the ball. Next, let's define this big shadow that falls across the middle of the ball. It looks like it starts here, and I know this is difficult to judge because it's a gradient, so there is no defining line. Just do your best to guess where it averages. It ends here. That'll help. Don't worry about making it perfect. You'll have plenty of time to adjust it during the shading step in the process. The highlights here, just lightly outline it. It helps to have as many landmarks as possible, and in this case we only have three: the reflection, the shadow, and the highlight, so take advantage of everything at your disposal. And that completes your preliminary drawing. As we progress, you'll learn that the reason I've structured each step in this order is to avoid doing a lot of work that has to get erased. Making a mistake and having to erase is a natural part of the drawing process, but you want mistakes to present themselves as early as possible because you don't want to have to erase hours of shading on a mistake you made in the preliminary drawing.